This is the Speakeasy podcast where we go behind the scenes and giving you the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, the behind the scenes of what it is to be the successfully paid speaker or author. I am your host, Altovise Pelzer, founder of the World Voice League, a virtual network of female speakers coming together to impact social change. Hello, everyone, and it is National Black Women Equal Pay Day. And I felt like this topic was one that definitely needed to be discussed. Hello. I feel like this topic was definitely one that needed to be discussed because we are in a time where there are still some significant gaps, huge gaps in the pay system when it comes to us as African American women. So it's not to say that I'm not talking to anybody else. It's just to say, listen, Indian women, Asian women, African American women, there are some huge gaps between what we get paid and what a Caucasian man gets paid. And when it comes to speaking and opportunities, there are so many things that factor into that. But what I want to say to you is we're going to be discussing some things on today's episode that really stand out. We're going to discuss some things when it comes to you being the speaker or the author that really are not being discussed at all, simply because we either don't know how to talk about it, we're fearful of backlash, let's just be honest, or we don't know the true answers ourselves. We don't know what the discussion should be. We're kind of in this space of, well, I don't really know if that's what I should be talking about. And I feel as though when it comes to getting paid your worth, you have to be in the conversation. Like, there's no way that you can continue to allow somebody else to determine what you're worth. And that's what happens, is a lot of times we're not even in the conversation in order for us to determine what it is that we're actually worth. Or because we're so excited to be able to fit in that we don't value what it is that we're bringing to the table. How many of you know what it is that you really are bringing to the table? And I'm going to give you 3 ways to get paid more. I'm going to give you those 3 ways simply because I know that for me, it was a struggle. I know that there's so many people that are out there making you think that they have it all together and, oh, they're just making it work. They can, as a speaker and as an author, they're just getting the most of their money and they're making millions of dollars. And the reality is there are a lot of people that put up a front to make you think as though that they're making a lot more than what they are. There are a lot of people that are putting up the front and making it seem they got the whole setup to where everything looks like it's $1 million worthy, but behind the scenes, this is still the struggle behind the scenes. I love that a lot of our actors and actresses have now started coming forward and really giving and diving into this topic, because even as a successful actor and actress, this is what they're going through. Even as a successful lawyer, this is what they're going through. And so the fact that we're having this discussion today is really valuable. It's really important, because if we don't have the discussion, then we can't expect anything to change. Those of you that follow me on social media, I've been talking about conversation, having the right conversations and having conversations often. We've been taught, to be quiet and to just, put our head down and weather the storm. But the reality is you can put your head down and weather the storm and you will be a broke entrepreneur. You will be a broke speaker. You will be a broke author. And at some point, you will go from being broke to being broken, because then you'll quit. Do you agree? I know that I've seen it. I've watched many, many people go through the same things. And so here we are with this discussion. So when it comes to you getting paid more as a speaker or an author, there are 3 things that really stand out and I know you're going to listen to this and you're going to go, they sound simple, but yet there are so many people that still struggle with these three things. And so number one is your ask. How many of you are actually asking for what it is that you believe you deserve? How many of you are actually asking to be paid? One of the things I remember talking to a client just recently about an event that she spoke at, and she said, she asked for what it was she wanted. She remembered the conversations we had. She remembered the things that I was, talking to her about. She said she went and she asked for what it was she wanted. She said the first year they weren't able to give her that, but they were able to give her some things, and they were able to make make it happen, collaborate. They were able to connect and figure some things out. And then the following year, they were able to pay her what she had asked. See, this is the thing, is that we're fearful of asking because we think if we ask, then they're going to turn us away. We think if we ask, then we're no longer the speaker that they sought out to speak for whatever event it was that they were asking us to speak on. We're thinking that as an author, and this is really big as an author, because most times authors will go and speak and give so much content and never get paid for it. And the reality comes in is you still have bills to pay, a family to take care of, yourself to take care of, because you still have to do traveling and speaking and eating, and you got to make sure that the hotel is paid for, and there's so many different things that need to be covered. And yet as an author, we will go and speak for free. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. There will be opportunities where you need to speak for free. There will definitely be opportunities where it will benefit you to speak for free. But can I explain something to you? That every opportunity should not be a free opportunity. You guys that have been listening to the Speakeasy podcast for any length of time know that we have had 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure earning CEOs and founders on the platform who have told you, don't be afraid to ask. You never know what somebody can offer you. You never know what it is that they can pay you. But if you never ask, then you're saying that you are worth whatever it is that they have put on the table. And some of you right now are going to say, well, you're probably right about that, because, they only offered me like $20. They offered me, the running joke for speakers is that you'll go and speak somewhere and they'll give you a chicken platter and a soda, and that's what you get paid for speaking. And trust me, I've heard the experiences. I've heard them firsthand from people, of people running off with the money, of people doing all types of craziness. So things happen behind the scenes. Trust me, if you don't know, follow the broadcast just a little bit. You'll be able to hear about what some of the things that go down. It goes down when it comes to being a speaker or an author. But you have to ask. So my question to you as a speaker or an author is, do you know what you're asking for? And that's where my number 2 comes in. And that means you have to do the research. What are other speakers or authors in your industry being paid, in your niche being paid with the same level of expertise? What are they being paid? What kind of events are they doing with the same level of experience? What are they being paid? What kind of, is travel included? Is hotel expenses included? What is actually being taken care of? When we think of ourselves, and remember, I'm coming from the standpoint as an African-American woman, as an African-American single mother, guess what? I get looked over for opportunities on a regular basis for the simple fact that people don't see me as a speaker because I don't fit the persona of a speaker. But when I get up on stage, every person that I get in front of, they go, oh my goodness, I don't know how you where'd you pull that from? I've never heard you speak live, but we have to work together. I need to know what it is you're doing next so that way I can come and support you. Why? Because before that, they had this preconceived misconception of who I was and what I had to offer. So when you come prepared with the information of what your niche is really paid, or, people in your niche, what they are speaking on, the information that they're speaking on, what's being talked about that's new in your industry. Knowing those things puts you a cut above the rest. So whereas everybody else is just thinking, I'm hot stuff, I'm a bag of chips. Listen, I'm all that in a bag of chips. That's what I am. And you come in and say, well, in our industry, this is what people are looking for, and I can provide X, Y, and Z. Now you stand out. So first, are you asking for the amount that you really want? And then number two, are you doing the research so when you show up, you are the expert of your industry? Can I tell you, so many people show up as anything but the expert. So many people show up, and when they show up, they're just showing up in a perspective and a mindset of, I'm happy to be here. I'm so excited to be here. I'm privileged to be here. And in the beginning, I understand how that feels. I understand why you feel so excited that somebody would have you come and speak at their event. I understand why you would be so excited for somebody to have you come and be a part of whatever movement and mission that they're putting together. I understand the excitement of it. Trust me, I do. But it goes a little further than the excitement. It goes a little further than just being able to say, man, I'm here. It goes a little further than just going and jumping on the bed and saying, oh my goodness, look it. I get it. There's a shift that has to happen. And when you start doing the research and becoming the expert of your industry, when you show up, come on, when you show up as the expert in your industry, then you leave less and less for them to have to question on the amount that you asked. You leave less and less for them to have to question the amount that you asked to be paid, because now they see that you're stepping in as the authority. They see that you're coming in and giving them the information that they are necessary, that's they're wanting, the information they want their audience to know. Same thing with being a podcaster. One of the things that I love as a podcaster and as a guest on other people's podcasts is that when I come in, I'm coming in saying, this is what your audience will walk away with. Because I know I'm the authority when it comes to X, Y, and Z. I can speak on X, Y, and Z, and this is what your audience is going to walk away with. Can I tell you that many people, when they show up almost as if to say, well, I think I'm really good, and we'll just swing it. How many of you have seen that happen? I think I'm really good. I'll kind of just wing it and figure it out along the way, right? No way, shape, or form is this how it's supposed to be. And so our studio audience is giving us stuff in the comments. And so Clara said, I had to do a speaking engagement out of town and they didn't offer anything. She said she reached out and told them I'm traveling. They immediately went into gear to make sure that they put me up in a nice hotel and etc. However, I had to say something in order to get it. How many of you understand this? Is that if you never say a word, they don't know that, they may not know that you're traveling. I mean, this is the thing, this is reality. We would like to guesstimate and think that people research us to the point where they know exactly where we live and how many planes we got to take and all of these things, right? But the reality comes in is that they don't necessarily know where you're coming from all the time. They may have that conversation, they may ask, but everyone does not ask. That part. So until you let them know what your circumstances are, you can't expect anybody to live up to the expectation that you have for them. You have to let them know what that expectation is first. And until you know what that expectation is, and you set that expectation, you will not be able to get paid and be a successfully paid speaker or author. There's no way. Unfortunately, we wish that people would just value us and just pay us what we're worth. We wish that people would just throw money at us. We do. I can tell you right now, if I could just show up to an event and they hand me $10,000 checks every time I show up, and I do about an event a month, I would love it. But the reality comes in that that's not how any of this goes. That's not how any of this goes. And so I still have number 3 for y'all. And so number 1 was the ask. Number 2 was the research. Number 3, and this one is going to be like a mom pluck to the forehead for some of you. It's going to be like one of those moments where you knew you wasn't doing this and that you should have been doing this, but you were doing it anyway. You were figuring it out anyway. Number 3 is so very valuable, because what I found that when it comes to the speaking industry and the author industry is we're very fearful about getting outside of our communities. We're very fearful of getting outside of our comfort zones. And we're very fearful of going and actually getting into other circles. And I don't know if it's as much the fear as it is just not knowing how to communicate and how to network. And so number 3 is I have to learn to network for success. Something that I teach my clients is I teach them how to network for success. That means I'm not just shoving business cards in people's faces. That means I'm not just going and collecting business cards, but I am networking my way to success. And one of the key things, and I'm always sharing this, guys, with you guys on the podcast, I'm always sharing it with my live stream audience as well, that when I go live in the mornings, is that when you show up, people should know who you are, who you serve, and how you serve. If people do not know who you are, who you serve, and how you serve, then how do you expect them to actually want to tune into what it is you're talking about? Many people will go and spend so much time. You spend so much time on the dress that you're wearing or the suit that you're wearing. You're spending time on the cufflinks and the earrings and the hair. And you don't even know how to show up in such a manner that people know who you are, who you serve, and how you serve. So when somebody walks away from you, how do they know who to network or connect you to? They don't. And some of you may say, well, I handed them a business card. That means absolutely nothing. Did you leave a lasting impression on them? One of the things that I found, and this is coming from an introvert, this is coming from somebody who I am not the loudest person in the room. I am usually the quietest person in the room. And when I went to events for the longest time, I was the one that said, well, this is most introverts. We sit by the door. We usually sit in the back of the room as far back as we can, noticeably be able to sit as far back as we can, and by the door so we can make a clean exit afterwards. But I had to learn how to network. That was where my book plug-in came in with the 25 power networking tips. I had to learn how to network for success. Most times when you are handing somebody a business card, it does not have your picture on it, and all it has is your name, phone number, and an email. That means absolutely nothing. That does not show people who you are, who you serve, and how you serve. But I found that there are so many people that this is the lifestyle they live. So many times they're running around and they're kind of just running like a hamster on a wheel, because they don't know that if I just get into other communities, if I just go and collaborate and connect with people outside of my comfort zone, outside of my little circle, then I'll actually be putting myself in line for me to be able to be a lot more successful. And don't listen. I understand, and this is somebody's gonna get hurt by this, and I get it. A lot of times we become very complacent, and I'm just gonna put the L word out there and say lazy. And we'll do stuff with people who are within our network and within our community, and meaning our virtual community. It can be our community in person, our neighborhood where we live. It can be the community where we serve. It can be whatever it is. We'll immerse ourselves in that community, but outside of that, we won't do any extra work. And so we're not making the connections in order for us to be connected to somebody that can pay you the $10,000 for you to speak. And honestly, this is the honesty moment. The reason why we're not in those other circles is because we're fearful of investment. And I'm not just talking about investment of money. I'm talking about investment of time, energy, and money. We're fearful of investment. We want to invest the least and get the greatest return on it. And when it comes to you being the successfully paid speaker and author, if I'm always only willing to invest the least, I can't expect the best. You have to think about it. If you think about it in this way, seed and harvest. If it's seed and harvest, if I'm sowing 10% into my business of what I want to come into my business, if you're only sowing $100 this year, then how much are you going to get into your business? That's just an honesty moment. So when I look at that third piece of getting outside of my comfort zone, that means that I may have to go and invest in a community. I may have to go and invest in somebody's program, somebody's membership. I may need to go and invest in, because the conversation will be different. The community will be different. And I know that you're probably looking and listening to this and saying, well, how does this fit in with Black Women Equal Pay? Because a lot of times as African American women, we become cliquish. We do. And when we become cliquish, we shut off our vine to success. Now, some of y'all didn't want to hear that. And that's just sorry, not sorry moment. When we become cliquish, we cut off our vine to success. Something that I learned many, many years ago is, and I don't know if you were taught this, I was taught this, you don't burn bridges. Because if you burn bridges, a lot of times it's no going back to those. And so I had to learn, and this is not something that's talked about in the African American female community. Let's just be honest. This is not something that's talked about when it comes to just the speaking industry. This is not something that, when it comes to the author industry, this is not something that we're discussing. And because it's not something we're discussing, we're leaving this dialogue on the table, making people think that it's okay for us not to be okay. We're not okay. We're trying to do things on our own. We're trying to be this whole idea, false hope of being this solopreneur. And instead, we are depressed. We are struggling. We are frustrated because we're all trying to get at the same exact people instead of us learning how to connect with others. We're not having the conversations we need to have. We're not showing up in the places we need to show up. Guess what? It has to change. It has to change. I get it. And even when we look at Jay-Z and having this conversation with the NFL and this collaboration with the NFL, if you look at it, and I made this statement a few days ago when I posted about it in some of the groups, I said, Jay-Z is somebody that has always, when it comes to business, has been somebody that plays chess, not checkers. When you are playing chess, you are strategic in the moves that you are making. Meaning that you're not just thinking about the here and now, the move that you're making at this moment, but you're thinking 2 and 3 steps ahead. As African American women, if we want to not only close the gap, but just completely obliterate the gap, we got to stop playing checkers and start playing chess. We have to start being strategic about where we are going and how we are showing up. We have to be so clear about what we will and will not accept. And the reality is that scares us because it's a scary place to be. It's a scary place to be. As an African American woman, it's scary. It is. The things that I have had to endure when it comes to being an African American single mother, that's scary. It just is. Thinking about me being at a job and doing all I can and pushing and fighting all that I could just to be able to live paycheck to paycheck, and then have to deal with everything that was going on with our young African American young men, and then looking at everything that's going on with our young African American young women, looking at the teen pregnancy rate, looking at the youth rate when it comes to suicide and drug addiction, looking at all of these different things. There is no part of what we're going through that's not scary. And it doesn't make it less scary, but it allows us to know that we have a support system. If we're talking about the conversation, if we're actually having a dialogue about it, then I get to learn from you and you get to learn from me. See, as a speaker, there is something that you have to offer. As somebody who has lived through taking your kids and making sure they go to college, there's something you have to offer that other people may not have to offer. Get out there. There's somebody that will pay you for that information. There's somebody that will pay you top dollar for that information. But they will never pay you until you speak up. They will never pay you until you research and understand just how valuable you are. And they may never pay you until you get into the right circles and have the right conversations. I get it. When we look at the whole thing with Jay-Z, I get why people were saying he's a sellout. I get why people were frustrated and upset. I get that. But what I also get is how Jay-Z is the same person that went and had a basketball team and an English soccer team before he opened up Rock Nation Sports Management. He's playing chess. There's value in what we know. But the only way we get to know it is if we experience it. I'm going to say this again, because see, we got a lot of people that are out here that are going to speak on something that they've never been through. And unfortunately, there were a lot of people who were on Twitter who were bashing the numbers, who were saying these numbers are false and this is not true. Well, it's because they don't do enough. They don't do as much. It's because they don't work as hard. I mean, these are really the conversations that were being had. And when you think about, when I look at what I've done and making it work and shopping at the dollar store because that was all that we could afford, even though I was working full time, it's not always that we're not working hard enough. But the fact that they believe that it is means that we're not speaking up enough to say that it isn't. Ask, research, get out of your comfort zone. Get into some networks, get into some communities where you can start speaking up and speaking out about what it is that is going on. When it comes to your niche, listen, there's somebody that needs to know that information. And again, they will pay top dollar for it. But are you willing to show up and let them know what it is you understand and know? Are you willing to have the right conversations? Oh, that part. One of the things that I said I wanted to do was I wanted to write. I wanted to write and publish 100 books. And people were like, okay, well, maybe you should focus on something else. That's not really a great goal because you don't make a whole lot of money from books and this and that. And I was just looking at them like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not writing the books just for me. I'm not writing the books just to be able to say that I wrote 100 books. Although that's something pretty cool. I might want to go and look up who's had the most amount of books published ever. I'm looking to write 100 books because there are enough of us that are going to our grave with wisdom and knowledge that our young people need. Our parents and grandparents went to their grave with wisdom and knowledge and ideas that would have set us up for something different. Do you understand that? Do you realize that your great grandparents went to their grave with ideas that could have had you set up like the Walmart family or, at the Hilton family? Or they literally went to their grave with books and knowledge. And we are now in the position where we can be the ones to set a different standard. We are now in the position where we can be the ones to change the status quo for those who are coming after us. And many of you have so much that you could be putting into a book, so much that you could be talking about from a stage, so much that you could be doing to build your business, and knowing that I have an answer, a solution for a question or a problem that is out in the world. So many times. And we second guess ourselves. We question, are we really good enough? We question it. Are we really good enough? Can I really make this work? Can I really make this happen? And is what I have really valuable? Is it that valuable? My answer to you, if you heard nothing else during this episode, is not only is what you have valuable, but there is someone who needs it, and they need it today. Not only is what you have valuable, there's somebody that needs it and they need it today. So I need y'all to get in this conversation when it comes to Black Women Equal Payday. I need y'all to get into this conversation when it comes to reaching out and being a hand out for somebody, a hand up, not a handout for somebody, but a hand up. I need you using your voice and your message and putting it out there in the world. One of the things that I said, we did it with one anthology already, and a bestseller, #1 bestselling anthology. And it was a stage of their own. 13 authors came together to share their story of how they were able to take their message and turn it into their mission. And, turn it into a movement and what that really felt like, what that really meant. And then I said, you know what, we have another one. Let's get this other one. And the next anthology actually comes out in February. We still have a few open spaces if you are interested in being a part of this anthology. bit.ly/MOTF author. The anthology comes out in February. We have a payment plan, so the payments go all the way up until January. And it's time for us to tell our story. And so MOTF is my own 2 feet. And we want to discuss what it is. What was that big step that you took in order for you to reach success in your life, in your business, success, when it comes to parenting, success in your relationship? What was the one big step that really shifted it and changed everything for you? And the reason why we're so adamant about you coming and sharing this information is because guess what? There's somebody out there that needs it. Hands down. There's somebody that needs it. And so I need you to have that information because it's valuable. bit.ly/MOTF author. Come join the community. We would love for you to come and be a part of it. That part, but not just that, we have some great things coming down the pipeline. Those of you who know, listen, Speakeasy Podcast, we're moving and shaking. If you are an author or speaker, we would love to have you on as a guest. Make sure that you come and connect. bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast, all lowercase. We interview authors and speakers about their journey, successful or not so successful journeys, when it comes to being the successfully paid speaker or author. That part is so very valuable. And you guys are really valuable. Why? Because as the Speakeasy Podcast guests, I appreciate you. As the listeners, I applaud and appreciate you. Please let us know how this particular episode resonated with you. You can go and leave us a review over on iTunes. Apple Podcasts now. We would love to hear your review and be able to read it out on air. With that being said as well, I'm super excited, guys. Great things are happening. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, share this out. Somebody somewhere may need this information or want to hear about it, want to have a conversation about it, simply because guess what? It's time for change, and we are the ones that can impact this change. With that being said, I appreciate you guys again. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.